Welcome to the Profit Share Mastery Podcast with your hosts, Linda and Pres McKissack.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Profit Share Mastery Podcast. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Pres McKissack. Hey, Linda.
Hey, Pres. I'm super excited because our guest today is someone I've actually known for a long time. We have some real funny stories, right, Sherry? Especially you and Jimmy have some funny stories, but we go way back. And so I like, because the audience doesn't know you, Sherry, I like to say you were born, Sherry, and then what happened? And just bring us to today and tell us what you know and have learned about Profit Share through being with KW as long as we have.
Well, now, Linda, I'm pretty old. So when you said start with when I was born, that could take a long time. We'll bypass that. I would say that probably the most, I was born in Muskogee, Oklahoma. So for those of us who remember Merle Haggard, I am an Okie from Muskogee.
Yeah.
And, so like many of us in my age group, we all went to work pretty early. And so I worked at the Sunset Drive-In Theater at the age of 12 and a half on the weekends just to serve popcorn and Cokes. And fast forward, I went to the typical route that we all go, which is the hamburger joint, and worked there a couple of years, and then the list goes on. I actually married and moved to Houston, Texas, just about the age of 19, and went to work there. But at the age of 22, I went to work for the ERA regional office as a secretary. It was a one-girl office. He was the regional director of that company. And I started meeting all these ladies with their beautiful nails and their beautiful eyelashes. And I was just talking with them because the training center was right next door to where I worked. And I would go ask them, well, tell me about being a realtor. And they would tell me. So when he would travel. So when Lloyd was in town, I went into Lloyd and I said, Lloyd, I think I could be a realtor. And he goes, oh, honey, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. That's weekends and evenings. And you've got that little boy and you don't want to do that. And I said, no, I think I do. And that was the beginning. So I got my license and it's been 45 years I've been in this wonderful industry. So, but my life changed the moment Mo Anderson tapped me on the shoulder, which was in 1994.
So you must have moved back from Houston to Oklahoma.
Yes, unfortunately, that marriage did not survive. And so I did move back. And then, boy, was I lucky. I met the love of my life, Mr. Steve Lewis, and we now celebrate our 37th wedding anniversary. And so there you have it. So
I've met him. You did real good. You did real good.
I would agree with that for sure. And so that's kind of the work history, but joined Keller Williams in 1994 and opened up our first market center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we launched, back then you could do this, but we launched with 13 people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
A little different today.
Quite a bit different today. And as of right now, I don't know if this is important or not, but I am the operating partner of 3 market centers, have an investment in a 4th market center. But in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we have over 1,100 associates in this operation. So we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
So anyway, my story with Profit Share is I got it when they explained it, but you think you got it and then you don't got it.
Yeah.
And so I started teaching it in my own market centers and helping people to get excited about it. And so I would say that in the earlier days, we really focused a lot on teaching our people about that additional stream of income. And I guess I'll never forget when I first heard probably Gary Keller, maybe it was even Dave Jinks, talk about that in our industry, so many people make so much money. And remember, that's some 35, 37, 27 years ago, where people make today tremendous money. But even back then, they were making good money. But our industry was somewhat, I think, held back because we spent too much money. Realtors make money and then they spend money. Would y'all agree with that?
Which they still do, by the way. Yeah.
Well, only commensurate to what you earn, though, Linda, right?
Right.
So anyway, so the profit share, and I remember Gary Keller talking about, he knows this industry, a lot of people don't reserve for retirement, they don't invest. And those were earlier days. And of course, I think we've gotten a lot better through Keller Williams over the years. So I really was focused, and we had been open about 6 months, and we had a $27,000 profit sharing pool that I got to share
That's
with
awesome.
the market center. And so that was when I really knew this thing was for real.
So now I remember I'm sure you have lots of stories, but I remember one that really stuck out to me. Well, two things. One, Sherry, you're right. We did always used to teach profit share a lot more. I was telling my coach this morning, Terry Foster, which is also from your area. And on her this morning, I actually ran across a guy that joined our profit share course not too long ago that was with KW and didn't even know we had profit share. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got to get back to teaching it. But the other thing is, I remember a story, Sherry, and I don't remember what affiliation you had with the gentleman, but I remember you had an agent that had done pretty good at profit share, and then he passed away. Can you kind of tell us that story? Because Press had never heard that story.
I would love to tell that story. So when I first launched the Market Center, I had been the recruiter trainer for another real estate company. And this gentleman was the one that taught my real estate school in the other company. Charles Boles was his name. And Charles was, I kidded him all of his life and said he was like 5'6" by 5'6". Now, not literally, but he was a little guy, and he had, he loved to cook. And so therefore, and so Charles, actually, when I confided in him and told him I was talking about going with Keller Williams and opening up a market center in Tulsa. And he was a gentleman that was always ahead of his time. He had tried he was the first buyer broker in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So he was always a thinker, and he was brilliant, actually. So confided in him, and he said, "Oh, Sherry, this sounds like a phenomenal opportunity, and I would love to be with you." And so he kind of started with me almost from day one. In fact, he was day one. And because he also taught around the city, he knew a lot of agents. He taught CE, and he took continuing education and stuff like that. So therefore, Charles came with me, and my goodness, he certainly built a good downline. And then we fast forward, and he was older, and he started having some heart issues. And Charles had never married. He did not have children. He only had nieces and nephews. And a little couple lived across the street from him. He lived kind of out in the country. And they had 5 children and did not make a lot of money. And Charles kind of became their grandfather. And so they would do things for him, and he would do things for them. And so he did have this heart issue. He had been in the hospital, and the other gentleman and I were his caretakers, if you will. So we were the ones in the hospital. And the two of us met there one day, and we talked about getting him out of that hospital. We need to get him elsewhere. And this is probably more detail, but I think it all has a major lovely story. And so Steve Whitaker was his name. And I said, "Steve, it's time to get him out of this hospital and get him elsewhere." And Steve agreed. And the next morning we were making the arrangements to move him, and he passed away that evening. So we went into his home, and what we found is that he had left his profit share to the Whitaker family, to Steve Whitaker and his children. And I will never forget, because that was such a great story. And those children often only wore hand-me-downs, the 5 children, and there was boys and girls. And I will never forget when we got to interview that family, and one of the little girls said, "I now get to have a brand new pair of shoes for school."
Oh, wow. That gives me chill bumps.
Same here. And so for many years, we gave the Charles Boles Award for the outstanding person who had done something for someone else. But that is the story of Mr. Charles Boles. And that man loved his cold milk, and he loved Keller Williams, and we all loved him.
I love it. What a great story. And I remember watching that video one time. I don't know where it was played, but where they interviewed the family, and they weren't quite sure what this thing was that they got, but they certainly were blessed by it. And they're certainly grateful for it. And it certainly, to some degree, changed their lives, really.
It really did, because they were able to move into a different home even. And I think they're averaging, the last time I checked, they were receiving around $10,000 a year.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It is crazy.
Wow. Yeah. What a gift. And for him to be able to will it to someone he felt like really even wasn't a relative, but somebody that he felt was important to him, and he knew it would make a difference in their life. What a legacy.
Yeah, it really was. And of course, they loved him as much as he had loved them. And it was just absolutely such a beautiful thing. So, and then I do have another story. One of my charter agents, one that got the vision, came with me incognito in the beginning. And her husband was an independent contractor in construction. She was an independent contractor with us in real estate. She actually worked at a steak and ale restaurant. Do you remember steak and ale restaurants?
I do. I miss those sometimes.
And she was a waitress there, and we'd go in there for the salad bar. And every time I would see her, I would select her section, and I kept saying, Bobby, you need to be a realtor. You have the great personality. You need to be a realtor. And so sure enough, she became a realtor. And 30 days later, she walks into me. She says, oh, Sherry, I'm pregnant. I said, well, pregnant people can be realtors. So let's just keep on going. And that daughter's now probably in her 30s, I suppose. And so fast forward, her husband came down with some strange disease. And here again, independent contractors sometimes have not made really good arrangements. Mm-hmm. And he lived 9 months in ICU.
Wow. That's fun.
Yeah, it was a long time. And she often tells the story. She would have lost her home had it not been for profit share.
Yeah, I love it. What we call those life's unexpecteds.
That's right. That's right. And so she's still very much with our company, still an advocate, still. In fact, almost every month she'll send me a little note. My check this month was $5,076 or something like that.
Isn't that awesome? I love the 21st when I start getting my little texts from people thanking me and appreciating. And I always say, you know, in my many years of selling real estate and 200 homes a year for many years, I never once had a buyer or seller look at me with tears in their eyes and say, thank you. I still get people that get emotional and say, thank you. You changed my life. And that's why we call it profit share while changing lives, building wealth while changing lives. So Sherry, why do you think, number one, we're here to inspire people to focus on their profit share. Why do you think more agents don't? And then what tips would you give people who are listening to this about, you know, paying more attention to their profit share?
Well, I would say that a lot of agents get so wrapped up in running their real estate business. And I think those who are in the second tier of productivity, maybe they don't have an assistant, it's just them. Maybe they have a transaction manager or something like that available to them. But I think people just get so wrapped up that they don't think about it. And we did a series with Mo Anderson about how to have that initial conversation and things like that. But I do believe that that's the bigger thing, except for those who receive it and then they get it. And it's so easy. It's just so easy. I don't ever if I go into a department store, I was in Costco recently, and this young man came over and he was just with it. He knew what he was talking about. He was probably 20 years old. He was 20, and his articulation was amazing. And I said, you know what, you should be in the real estate industry. And he said, you know, I've thought about that. And then I said, and there's additional streams of income that's available to you through real estate. Right there, you can say that. So I would say that we as leaders probably need to do a better job of really teaching our people. They think it's complicated, and it's not. They don't have to know all the nitty gritty. They don't have to be able to explain it. They just need to know. If we can get them understanding, I will tell you, this company changed my life. I know it's changed your life. I personally, last year, hit the $1 million mark. Yeah. And that's just with little bitty numbers, and then it grows and then it grows. And what's beautiful about that is you get to see other people grow. The Terry Foster Nallen, my very first team leader in Owasso. Now look at her. And so the growth is there organically. If people get it. And I don't know if this is making sense or anything, but it's just an easy process to invite people to look at this. What I really want people to understand is when they talk to someone else about Keller and they get involved in profit share, that profit share can change a life. It can build that retirement.
Yeah. Sherry, when I speak to offices all the time, the first thing I ask everybody to do is put in the chat how Keller Williams has changed their life. And, they come up with amazing things like the culture, the teamwork, the training that's changed my career. I mean, all kinds of things. And then I always ask, well, who are we to decide that's enough lives changed, right?
Right. That's right. I say this all the time to my team leaders. We have the opportunity to change a life every day. And it sometimes keeps me up at night that more and more people don't take advantage of this opportunity of wealth building, one of the easiest wealth building. And when people ask me about it, I'll say it's another stream of income, and you don't have to sell any soap.
Yeah, that's true.
And so nothing negative there.
Sherry, I'm curious. You talked about Mo and how she influenced you into the company. Will you talk a little more about what was it that she said or did, or what happened in that process? Because I think to your point and to Linda's point, we haven't, as leaders, we haven't taught enough of our agents to know what to do or how to do it. And so I think in listening and hearing how someone influenced you will help them in understanding, oh, there's a nugget there. Like that's something that I can do in my next conversation. So talk a little bit more about what Mo did with you and how that helped you decide to make the move.
Okay, thank you. First of all, Mo and I originally, way back when, were both with the Century 21 network here in Oklahoma. And when I got into the industry, I joined a C21 office, and I would go to all of the training and all the rallies and things. And I will never forget, Pres, when I first saw Mo take a podium at a regional meeting, and it was a fun meeting. She was up there and she started speaking, and she's my senior a few years. And I just looked at her and I go, oh my gosh, I want to be like her. And so we fast forward, she left Century 21. She actually, as you might know, sold her company. And then her company went to Merrill Lynch. You might not even remember that they were in the real estate business. Then they went over to Prudential, and ultimately she left, and she had a non-compete. So for a couple of years, she would contact me because I also worked on a committee with her about education in Oklahoma. And we met a little bit more, but not a lot. We didn't know each other well. And so then I was going to be doing a training class in Edmond. And during the time she had her training company, which is how she met Gary Keller, remember that? And so when she would call me about being a trainer for her then, and prior to that, she'd call me about joining the company she was affiliated with. So we had talked maybe 4 or 5 times. Well, one day I'm teaching in Edmond, and she walks into my classroom. And I have to tell you that she sat kind of at the back of the room. And I go, oh my gosh, there's my mentor, and I'm going to be training in front of her. And the class was risk management. Now that's so exciting to teach. And so I see her in there, and I say hello to her. And I'm going to just tell you, my heart just started pounding. It was real. I was nervous to train in front of her. And that whole class, she kind of sat there looking at her paper like she's making notes, never asked a question, never said a word. I go, oh my, I'm blowing this. And afterwards, she came up to me. She said, Sherry, do you remember me? And I said, well, certainly I remember. You've been my mentor from afar for years. And she said, well, I'd love to have coffee with you. If I come over to Tulsa, would you have coffee with me? So that's how this happened. So we sat down in a little restaurant across the street from Oral Roberts University. And we were in this little restaurant that's kind of an incognito because I couldn't get caught by my other brokerage or anything. And we shut that one down at 2:00 with drinking coffee and talking. We went down the street to another little restaurant. And about 3 hours later, after she's told me all of these wonderful things about Keller Williams and the profit sharing model, and here's what she does. She looks at me. Now, this is where I thought I would love to be visual. She looked at me and she said, now, honey, based on all this I've told you, can you think of anyone who might want to bring this to Tulsa? And so for those who can't see this, it was hook, line, and sinker. And I said, well, yes, Mo Anderson, I think I know someone that would like to do this. So that happened in September. And from September until December, she took me through process. She changed my life.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
My life.
Love it.
I don't want to get teary-eyed.
Linda, what's so cool about that? I bet you did the same thing I did. Sherry, in our profit share program, we teach a process called we call it Linda's magic formula, but it's relationships plus validity plus value over time. And that is the way that you help productive agents understand our company, help them see that this is the best place for them, and ultimately get them over to our company. And what I love is I just wrote down the formula. And as you went through it, I wrote down, you talked about relationships. You said y'all were at the same company. Y'all knew each other. She was your mentor from afar. And then you went into her training on stage and her coming to your class. That's the validity piece. And then the value piece is, I'm sure, what she did with you over time, but sitting down with you, understanding what was important to you, where you wanted to go. And so, Linda, I don't know about you, but I just heard the formula through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly it. Like I said, she just reeled me right in.
Awesome. Well, and what a beautiful thing for both of you over the years. She changed your life, but you changed hers too, because you've been a huge part of the growth of Oklahoma. And so, I love it. I love these stories, because I think a lot of people just don't know about profit share, or they haven't made the commitment yet to really get serious about, changing people's lives with it, just building relationships and following the formula that we teach in the Profit Share Mastery course. Like Pres said, we spent a lot of years saying, hey, don't do this, but we never bothered to say, hey, but do this, go build great relationships, use your validity. And I always like to say, most people have validity, but nobody thinks they do. Probably if you would have asked Mo, well, because she asked you, do you know me? Do you remember me? She wasn't even realizing, did she not only, her, but she was so valid to you because you saw her.
Yeah. And when you, that prompted something in my thinking. I also wonder, when people hear about this thing about profit share, they think it's too good to be true. Mm-hmm. And they equate it to other processes and programs that they've been approached about. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's why, Sherry, we teach in the class, until you know what a person's value gap is. I always tell the story how they kept speaking profit share to me, but that was the wrong topic. That was not my biggest value gap. My biggest value gap at that moment is I was with Ebby Holiday, and I was committed to building a brand so big in Denton, Texas, that when they thought of real estate, they thought of me. And my brokerage kept putting things in front of me. So really what people would have needed to help me self-discover is that Keller Williams believed I was the brand. And that's why we say part of the formula is get to know them well enough to know what is of value to them at this time, or what's a big value gap that they have, that you can start helping. We like to say, you're not good enough to make an agent, a buyer buy, a seller sell, or an agent join. All you can do is get them to a place where they can self-discover this is the right opportunity for them. And so you've got to figure out what's of their value gap at that time. And I think a lot of times, and this is what we tell them in our program, don't get so excited about profit share that you run out and try to tell the world about profit share, because that may not be what they're interested in at this moment. That may have to come with time. Now, for some people, that is what they're interested in, but you'll learn that by getting in conversation with them and truly getting to know them and understand what's a big gap that they have, that you can help them self-discover that Keller Williams would actually fill for them.
I so agree with that, because so many times their gap is far different than an additional stream of income at that moment. They just want income and to learn. and to grow.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with that statement. Yeah, it's not something you throw out there and dangle that carrot and say, okay, here it is. They don't get it. Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
So Sherry, in closing, you've been at the company. I did the math. 27 years at KW. You've had a career here. What would you share with those who are at this company and profit share is interesting to them? They like the idea. They've liked what you've shared today. What would you share with them about how do you build an amazing career and wealth plan at this company through profit share?
Big question, Pres. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you only got a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
Pres?
First of all, I would say take advantage of everything this company offers. I love this saying. I still use it all the time. Training is a process, not an event. Gary said that years ago. I say it all the time. Taking advantage, and oh my gosh, the advancement of the company we have and all the various things they're now offering, it's just grown so amazingly. It's just big, and we have lots of opportunity. I would say get involved. Just pour in and learn and take advantage and grow. I guess there's just so much emotion around this company for me. I just would say that a person, Dick Dillingham makes this statement, and when we used to teach FSO all the time, whatever your cap is, if you're not taking advantage, you're paying too much.
That's true. Good point.
So and that's directly from him. And it's true. And what saddens me is so many people, even with our company, are truly not taking advantage of the things that this company offers. I would also say, don't be selfish, because this company, and particularly our profit sharing opportunity, is a gift. It is truly a gift. There's not another company out there. I know in my region, we're sharing close to 46% of the profitable dollar every month. And the maximum is 48%. So it's just, it can change their life and it can change others' lives. And I know we use that a lot, and I don't mean to be silly with it, but it has changed a lot of lives.
Yeah.
And the two of you and me and so many of us. So I don't know, Pres, that I've answered your question appropriately or exactly, but I can just say, if they don't pour in and take advantage of it, it won't mean much to them.
Yeah. You get out of this company what you put in.
Without a doubt. And I love the fact that in this industry, you can't be too young, and you don't have to get out when you're old.
Yeah.
So true. So true. Love it. Love it. And for those of you that have listened to Sherry and you do want to take advantage of it, that you've made the commitment, this is the year you want to do it, Preston, I would love to help you along that journey. If you're interested, go to profitsharemastery.com. You can check all about our online course. You can join us at any time. Once you join us, we do monthly calls once a month. You bring us your opportunities, your challenges, your questions, and we just help each other live. And I don't know about you, Press, but that kind of became one of my favorite parts that we didn't even realize was going to be so amazing, to hear each person tell some of their stories about how they're using the formula to help change lives and bring people to Keller Williams. So we'd love to see you over there. Press teaches the module on how to build your profit share through new agent, and I teach the module on how to do it through existing agents. And like Sherry said, you got to take advantage of this. This is a gift, but it doesn't unwrap itself, right, Sherry?
Oh, perfectly said, Linda. Perfectly said. It does not unwrap itself.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Sherry. Appreciate your story. I love the Charles Whitaker story. It moves me to tears almost every time I hear it, and gives me chilly bumps of what profit share can do even beyond our own, by leaving a legacy for somebody who really, really needs it. So Sherry, thank you so much. We appreciate you, appreciate what you've done for the company, what you mean to the company. Press, I guess I will see you at the Leadership Academy next week.
Okay. See you soon, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was such a pleasure. Bye.